Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Red from Red's Reviews and Interviews, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Sean Chandler. How are you today, Sean?
I'm good.
That's great. Now, I've been a fan of your channel for quite a few years now, so I'm really pleased to be chatting with you today. But before we get into all my questions, could you just introduce yourself, please? Tell my viewers a bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Sean Chandler. I have a YouTube channel called Sean Chandler Talks About that I started in the summer of 2016, just as a hobby. I've always loved to talk about movies way too much. And I had some free time. I was kind of between jobs. And so then I was like, just leaned into my pastime of loving movies and loving talking about movies, started the channel. And about a year and a half into it, I started to really kind of get some traction and started to take off a little bit. And so I was able to go full time about 2.5 years in. So for the last 2 years and a month now, I've been full time as kind of a movie critic on YouTube, and it's very much feels like kind of living the dream that my hobby turned into my career, and I work for myself, which is really cool.
I bet, I mean, it must be amazing, and I can't wait to learn more about that. But first off, can you tell us a bit about how this all started? How and when did you sort of discover your love for movies?
It's not one that I could pinpoint like, oh, I discovered it. It was just kind of always that thing that was there. If I think back to, my some of my earliest memories that are like real distinct, it kind of goes back to the summer of 1989 when Batman 89 came out, and that movie was huge.
Mm.
As someone that just always grown up loving comic book characters, and then a new Batman movie's coming out and is a big gigantic blockbuster. So I was going to show you real quick. Oops. Still to this day, I have my collection of all the trading cards for all of Batman and Batman Returns, the full collections of all of them and everything.
So cool.
And that's the movie came out, I guess 32 years ago now.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of what I was doing when I was 7 years old. And that same summer, we went on a kind of a road trip as a family and stopped in a small town in, I think, New Mexico or Arizona. And they only had a movie theater. And if they didn't sell 20 tickets, they wouldn't show the movie. And they were playing Star Trek V, which is infamously a very bad movie. But that's one of my early memories of, like, distinct memories of going to the theater when I was a child. Like the earliest one was seeing Star Trek V. And so
Yeah.
I've just it's always kind of been there. When I was in elementary school, I think that when I was in the third grade, a guy came to talk for kind of career day about starting a comic book shop and a shopping, and his name was Sean, like mine, spelled different, but Sean's Comics. And it was just a couple miles from where I lived. And so for several years there, every weekend, my sister and I would ride our bikes to the comic book shop, and she would buy them and read them. I would look at the pictures because I'm kind of a dummy. But that was kind of, it was always kind of that stuff was there. And then, by high school, the internet started coming around. And it was the early days of it. Of course, it was 10 years before YouTube, and, you didn't have blogs and stuff like that, but you started having kind of the first movie news websites and rumor mill type stuff. And so I started following a lot of that stuff. And even when I was in high school, I started my first movie website that never went anywhere. It had 1,000 views. I had a little counter. That's what they did back, and they had a counter for however many people went to your website. So I had one of those. I got up to like 1,000 clicks on it, but 990 of those were me just clicking refresh, and the other 10 were my mom. It was a Jackie Chan fan website that he kind of started moving over to the United States and put out Rumble in the Bronx, Super Cop, Operation Condor, and then the Rush Hour movies came out, and he became kind of a big movie star in the U.S. And so I had a Jackie Chan fan website, and you had a picture of his body, and you could click on the body parts to see in which movie he did a stunt where he hurt himself. And I wrote these movie reviews that were just dreadful. And through the internet Wayback Time Machine, you can actually find an archive of this website that I had my old reviews and just see how illiterate I was. But back when I was in high school, I was just doing movie reviews and stuff like that in the very early days. Unfortunately, I didn't stick with it, and I didn't come back around to it for another 15 years. Otherwise, I would have been one of the pioneers of being internet movie critic guys because I started back in the 90s.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just always like that. I always like to create things. I always like movies. I always like nerdy stuff. I had my little era where I was kind of into prestige stuff a little bit, but I've always been kind of more interested in escapism and, movies about people getting punched and shot in the face and big explosions.
So we touched on this a bit earlier, but can you tell us in more detail how and when you began your YouTube channel, please?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, I've always been interested in this sort of thing and reviewing movies and just being into them, sharing my ideas. And so, first website back in the 90s went absolutely nowhere. And then I was very active on a lot of the message boards and stuff, commenting on other people's posts. And then I had some blogs at different points in time where I would um, I tried to do my own movie review blogs once blogs came around. One of them was called like the non-essentials. And so I posted some stuff on there. And then I started watching whenever the first wave of kind of the movie reviewer type guys started to really get traction. It started becoming more and more mainstream. So the obvious ones, Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckman, John Campea, Movie Talk, that stuff. Started to watch all those guys. And at the time, like I worked in a profession where I worked with teenagers in a church setting. And so I would do a lot of public speaking. And so then I knew that I could hold people's attention if I talked, because I had to do it with middle schoolers every week. And I could hold their attention for 25 minutes. So I thought I could talk about a movie for 5 minutes. That doesn't seem terribly difficult.
Yeah.
And so then starting 3 years before I actually started my channel, I started doing these prototypes where I tried doing movie review stuff. And it's funny because they're awful. They're just as bad as everybody else's first videos. And I think that the first one, it starts off and I go, "Hi, my name is Sean, and this is my review for the movie Now You See." And it's just awkward, clunky stuff like everyone else. You don't know how to talk to a camera. It's awkward to talk to a camera and when no one's in the room, but you're trying to be energetic. It's a weird thing to do. And so I kept having these false starts. I was very busy with what I was doing with my job at the church. And so I never stuck with it until 2016 when I didn't have a job. And so I had plenty of free time and I was like, let me give this thing a try. And as I mentioned, I'd had blogs before and I'd done a bunch of stuff and never gotten any traction doing any of it. And 2 weeks into doing YouTube, I had a video that took off that got like 3,000 views, which in a certain sense isn't a ton based compared to what I do now, but 3,000 is a lot of people when you're starting out. I mean, that's a ton.
Oh yeah.
And I'd had a blog that I'd run for several years, and I'd only had a handful in several years that got several thousand views. Only a handful in years. This is 2 weeks in, and I already got one. Okay, well, it seems like I'm better at this YouTube thing than I was at the writing thing. Maybe I'll stick with the YouTube thing. And so I just kind of stuck with it. And going into 2017, and it was kind of like still kind of a hobby thing the first 6 months. I actually, because I didn't have a job, I didn't even go to the movies. I had a movie channel. I couldn't go see new movies. And going into 2017, I actually talked to my wife, like, "Hey, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm getting some traction. I'm doing better than most of the other people that started when I started. Could I make it a deal? Every Thursday night, I go see the new movie when it comes out that Thursday night. Just that's blocked. That I spend the money going to the movies, and can I do that?" She's like, "Yeah, obviously you clearly love this. You're having fun with it. You're having some success. Sure, you can do that." And so then 2017, I kind of committed to it and just started to really get traction throughout that year. So that's kind of what happened.
Wow, that's a cool story. So you went full time on YouTube a few years ago. So tell me, what are the pros and the cons of, earning a living from being a YouTuber?
Yeah, so right off the bat, this started as a hobby. It started as I would spend my time doing this for free. And essentially I did. For the first year, I didn't really make any money. 9 months into it, April of 2017, I made $11. 30 videos, $11. Actually, excuse me. I started my Patreon account that month, and my mom signed up for $10 a month. So she gave me $10 adult allowance. I made $21 in the month of April 2017 on YouTube.
Oh,
And I just enjoyed doing it. It didn't really obviously pay any bills at $21 per month.
yeah.
And so you jump forward, and this is what I do for a living. The thing that I would do if I didn't make money doing it. I don't have to go to a job where I do something for someone else. I do the thing, whatever I want to do. So inherently, that's the dream for most people. If you're kind of self-motivated, if you're able to kind of control yourself enough to get work done, and I'm like that, I just inherently create things. I like to do work. Then that's the dream. And adding to that, right now, me and you talking, I'm working right now. Oh man, I'm just talking to you, telling me this is my job. This is my work for today. That's cool. I'm talking to someone about movies and what I do. That's cool. Watching movies at nighttime. That's part of my job. Like I'll tell people, man, I work 12 hours every day. I mean, 6 hours of that was watching movies, but it's part of my job. That's cool. And then when you have success reviewing movies, you start getting like press access and stuff. You see things early, which inherently seeing movies before other people, that's cool. But what's even cooler is that you can take your friends. That's what's really fun. Like how do I spend time with my friends? Like I ask them, like, hey, what movies are coming out? Would you like me to take you to the press screening? And just go through all my friends. Like, what movie would you like to see early? COVID era, press screenings, and I've been able to do it the last year. But for the 2 years before that, I literally went through my friends and just asked them, what movie would you like to see early? And it was cool. Like that was just really neat to be able to like take them, and they're so excited. Like, wow, I'm seeing a movie early, and it's a neat experience to be able to do that. And the way that the press screenings work is that they give out passes to the public. And so there's like this long line outside. And then but you're on the press list, you just walk up to the table. I'm Sean Chandler. They go, all right, head right into the reserve section right in the middle. And you sit down. That's just really cool.
Yeah.
What's the downside to it? You don't know what videos are, what isn't going to be successful. You don't know when there's going to be a pandemic and all the movies are delayed. So you have a movie with no movie releases, or a year with no movie releases, and you're a movie critic. That's a problem. And so there's a lot of things that are so outside your control, and you don't have any of the safety nets of a normal job. Therefore, and I don't really worry about that because I think I'm ingenuitive and creative enough that I can find a way to make it work because I have a big enough audience. But what that leads to is it's very easy to become a workaholic and not turn off. I work from home. I'm always at home. And as I just said, watching movies is part of my work. And so it's very easy for me to always have my laptop in front of me and not spend time with my kids. It's very easy for me to spend way too much time on my phone responding to my Instagram messages and DMs, which I still do. That's how you reached out to me, is through my Instagram DMs. And there's always more I can respond to. It's having to stop myself from working. It's having to tell myself, you've made enough money. You're okay. You're okay for right now. You're not in trouble. And it's just very difficult. My first year, things were great because I quit my day job right before Avengers Endgame came out, the biggest movie of all time. And my channel, it's all about Marvel movies. So my first 6 months was just teeing off, just nonstop. It was easy. Then the fall hit and we didn't have as many big movies. And it was like, oh, okay, my income's going to do this a lot. It's going to be wild. And then 6 months after that, COVID. And when you survive, you make it through that, you always have that fear, like, when is the floor going to drop out again? And so you just have to be very intentional, have a really good system. You have to build in margin into your finances. Like I pay myself a salary, like I pay myself a specific amount, even though my income is actually like this. What I pay myself has it changed since I started? Actually, I'm probably going to give myself a raise because things have been going well. So officially announcing this on here, I'm going to give myself a raise for the first time in 2 years.
Yay.
But it's just you do kind of all this kind of weird stuff because it's a very interesting experience to work for yourself with something with such varied income where you have so little control.
So tell me, what are the main points you look for whilst reviewing a movie?
I'm probably a little bit more story based. I'm not as much of I don't judge acting, cinematography, themes, things like that. That just they don't it's not as interesting to me, or it's not the direction I want to go with the conversation. And so I've listened to read a number of books on screenwriting and on storytelling, story structures, and things like that. So I just kind of think through the journey that the characters go on, what makes it compelling and interesting. Why does it why is it so satisfying when you get to a specific moment in one movie, and in another movie you kind of go, ugh, that was awkward, that was weird.
Yeah.
I think through what with this movie is most important. A comedy. Does it make me laugh? That's what's most important in a comedy. Action movie. Is the action cool? Is it exciting? Is it shot in a way where you can see what's happening? So I think through what is the thing for this movie? What is it trying to accomplish? And how well does it accomplish that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then because the structure of my reviews is good, bad, mixed, as I'm watching a movie, I just try and sort it into those categories. Okay, that was really cool. Good. Okay, that was awkward. That's bad. Okay, this is kind of good, kind of bad, mixed. And I just sort it through as I'm watching it, and whatever stands out. Oh, I really liked that. Oh, that was kind of weird. And then I go, why? Why was that cool? Why was that awesome? Why did that look neat? Why did that make me uncomfortable? Why did that stick out as like an awkward moment? Just always trying. The big idea is I want to articulate what other people are feeling. When someone watches my review and they go, yeah, he put to words what I was feeling. He just said it so much better than I could. That's the ultimate goal, really.
So you have a large collection of movie memorabilia.
Yes.
Which is your favorite item?
It's tough to say. It's tough because there's a number of reasons that things are for different reasons, things are very cool to me. So right here, we have this Tony Stark heart. That's a fan, also supporter on Patreon. He sent it to me for Christmas last year. Just sent it to me. And I like in my fan mail. So I'm just opening my fan mail, like, what is this? Like box, huh? And I had no clue what I'm just opening it. And like, huh? Open a box and there's like foam and there's a card and it says something like Tony Stark's heart. And I was like, wait, is this like a replica of Tony Stark's? Is this open up like, oh wow. Someone knows I love that like, Iron Man movie, love the Iron Man character, obviously love the MCU, and they sent me that. That's incredible. So that's one that comes to mind. This Rocky IV poster over there on the wall, and you can barely see it because the lights are in the way, so they're gonna overexpose you. But I got a Rocky IV poster on the wall over there that I did a birthday video for a fan. Like his mom reached out, like, "Hey, can you shoot a birthday video for my son?" I was like, "Sure." Set little 2-minute, 3-minute video, whatever, to him, and then like a month later, they sent me a Rocky IV poster because I know Rocky's my favorite movie character. I was like, that's cool. And of course, I love the movie, love the poster. And so then on my wall, the one that's kind of decorating my wall is that one. So it's tough to say, I've got a bunch of Funkos that are for different reasons. Different ones are cool to me. The one that I have for the Flash actually is one I think it was the first Funko a fan ever sent me. Now that's a regular thing. So it doesn't necessarily, it's become kind of part of the process what happens. But
Wow.
at the time, this is just my hobby. I still had a day job, just started kind of doing fan mail, opened it up a little bit, see what happened. And someone knew that I'd like the Flash. And so they sent me a Flash Funko. And the first time that happens, actually it's this one. Yeah. It's not on my Funko wall's over there, but it's actually behind me because the video is just shooting. And he sent that to me. And it was like just means a lot to you when that happens. So that one was pretty special to me. So there's a lot of different things for different reasons that kind of have a story. Anything that has like a real distinct story, and I could go around my room and, you know, obviously even this obviously means a lot to me. This is a 30-year-old notebook of my trading cards from my childhood, and it's 3 feet away from where I shoot my videos. That tells you everything you need to know about how important it is to me. So there's a ton of things that like that.
Now, finally, do you have any advice for someone who wants to become a professional film critic on YouTube, please? Or what would you tell someone wanting to do what you do?
I have my own YouTube channel where I talk about stuff like this, called Real Creators. If you've done Sean Chandler Real Creators, you kind of find the channel. And so I posted stuff pretty regularly on there this year. And over the last few years, I posted several things, interviews from things I've done, clips from the talk I gave at the Comic-Con a couple years back, just talking about my YouTube strategies and thoughts on all of it. And if you want to go real deep, I have created a course that you can purchase that has over 40 lessons. So self-promotion. If you want to go deep, that's I've kind of created my own resources on the subject. If you want to know the specific stuff I've purchased in the past or looked into, Sean Cannell's Think Media has been a big one for me, and I've actually met him in person. Real nice guy. And then Video Creators. They had a YouTube channel filled with stuff and a bunch of different courses. 30 Days to a Better YouTube Channel. Video Labs. I've done all their courses. That's Think Media, Video Creators. That's where I learned kind of my strategy when I was starting. Those are the resources that I purchased and I invested personally. If you're wanting my advice real quick offhand, once again, I've done a video called My Top 10 Tips for Starting a Movie Channel and Top 10 Tips for Growing One. So 2 different videos. They're the more elaborate version of this. But start, if you're interested, just start. You're not going to be good when you start. You have to get the crap out. So just start sooner and create a bunch of stuff. With anything, you've got to swing the bat to learn to hit the ball. You got to shoot the ball to learn how to make a basket. You got to practice. And it takes a while to get used to talking to a camera, learning how to concisely say your thoughts, and learning how to video edit, do all that stuff. So just go into it and don't overthink it. Sometimes people message me like, hey man, I put out my first video. Can you give me evaluations of what I should do? And I almost always tell them no, because you don't need my tips right now. Like maybe I can help you once you've learned a little bit yourself, once you've gotten a little bit better. But when you put out your first video, it's too early unless you're operating at a very high level, which not a lot of people are operating at a very high level to put about a slick video right out of the gate. You don't need my feedback when you start. You need my feedback once you've done some stuff. So just create a bunch of stuff and learn a little bit every video. Try and be a little bit better every single video. Read, watch a lot of different types of movie critics, not just the ones that you like, but ones that just talk about things differently. So you get a vocabulary for how to talk about movies better. Read a book on screenwriting, read a book on directing, read a book on cinematography. Listen to the Script Notes podcast. It's from 2 different full-time working screenwriters. They just talk about the business and how movies get made and how they write scripts. Learn the vocabulary that they use so you can talk in an articulate manner in your videos about stuff. And then as you go into it, if you want to be successful, don't play the victim. People always would be like, oh, YouTube only promotes these people. No one can make it anymore. If you're thinking like that, you'll never be successful. YouTube is owned by Google. They track everything and it's right there in your analytics. It's creepy how much information they give you and how much they track. And they let you know what people click on and what they don't click on. They let you know how long they watch your videos. They let you know when they click away. Look at that stuff, study it, and learn from it. Maybe the thing that you want to do isn't what you're actually good at. Learn from that. Learn from all of it. Figure out what works and lean into that and realize some stuff doesn't work. There's no shortage of movie reviews out there. You have to think supply and demand. The supply of movie reviews, it's too high. You can't just do movie reviews and think that you're going to cut through because there's too many people already doing it. I can't even be successful just doing movie reviews. My movie reviews aren't why I'm successful. It's all the other stuff that I do. So pay attention. Think about it like an entrepreneur. That's how you succeed.
That's great advice, and it's been really interesting talking with you today, so thank you so much. If anyone wants to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
If you go on YouTube, look up Sean Chandler, you'll either find an NFL football player or a guy that looks like me and is talking about movies. It's the guy that looks like me and is talking about movies. On Twitter, it's Kirk Never Died. And then on Instagram, I believe it's Sean Talks About, I believe is my name over there. And that's where you can find me. I didn't do that clever thing where my name is all of my social media. I screwed that up and now it's a bunch of different things. So it's tough, sometimes difficult to find me.
Great, so that brings us to an end. So thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing your next video.
I appreciate it.
Bye.